Bit of a strong title, isn't it? But in reality, they call those that section of the prison. They call them for vulnerable prisoners. You know, people that have mental health problems like psychosis, schizophrenia, deep depression, fucking suicidal ideation, stuff like that. You know. But I spent like 2 years and 24-hour lockup down there. You know, and I think when I hit 2 years, the staff came to a decision to make a because they couldn't sanction that kind of cruelty, so they made it mandatory for me to go to the yard. So when I was out in the yard, I discovered that a lot of people that off other people, you know, end up down in that wing. So I met a lot of them out in the yard. One guy, like, he was a small little Indian fella, came walking over towards me and with a smile on his face, very mild mannered, no polite, everything, you know, but small and kind of timid looking. And he smiles and he says, I can't say the word, I just unalived my wife, you know, with a smile. And I says, why'd you do that? He said, because she was cheating on me. He says, and she was bullying me. And I went through her phone and saw text messages and stuff like that, and he offed her, you know. I read about him after when I got out, and he's trying to plead insanity or something like that. But in the investigative reports, the ones that were able to see, said that he was looking up conditions in Irish prisons. So there's premeditation there. He's not getting out. Then there was another fella, he was in hospital, and he unalived the guy that was next to him in the other hospital bed because he thought he was eating his children. Then there was another fella, he unalived his mother. You know, he taught me her last words before she passed away. And then there was just like a schizophrenic kind of fella, you know what I mean? He used to be talking like, thinking about everybody stole all the best lyrics to every fucking song from him that was like written. And he was shipped off to Africa in a container. And he was a top motorbike racer as well on top of that. And he said to me actually one time, he says, if I gave him a cigarette, he'd give me 2 million when we got out, you know. So I gave him a cigarette, because you never know, you know. But yeah, and then there was a couple of other guys that was in there, like fellas that be crying. There was one fella in the Zimmer frame. He must have been like, he was in for shoplifting. So I said, like, I thought like the judge that sent him down, you know, must have had a hard time sending him down the way he was, because he was vulnerable, like mentally and physically. So he must have been a prolific shoplifter to be sent down. But he'd be crying all the time on the yard, and other prisoners would get pissed off at the crying. But every now and again he'd stop and he'd belt out some Elvis songs. Then there was another fella, he was a singer, Northern Irish fella. He was good at Irish songs, you know, but he was paranoid. He thought the screws were out to get him because he was friends with John Gilligan, the notorious Irish gangster. So he thought they were out to get him, but they took his kettle from him and everything and all that. Like, so I'd see him out in the yard, I'd bring him out of coffee. We'd stand and talk, oh, we're going to be best friends, he'd say, you know, and I gave him the coffee, like, and stuff like that. And I read after, when I got out, that he was throwing boiling water over the officers, and that's why they kicked him out. But yeah, you meet all sorts of characters. Another fella inside there, he was in a fight, and the guy that he was fighting, like, passed away. So he was going over that in his head, like, and, you know, the severity of his, or what his case was after turning into, you could see was going over in his head. And I read about him when I got out. People saying that they didn't come down hard enough on him. Well, I can tell you this, he went through a hard time inside there. He spent the longest time in the padded cell inside there. Like, weeks would go by, we say, where's William now? Still no fucking sign of him, you know. And like the padded cell, like, if you spend enough time in there, you go from a padded cell to an isolation cell. You're like, oh, when you get to an isolation cell, that's the way it is, like, you know, if you spend enough time in a padded cell. But yeah, I mean, if I got out now, say if I went to prison now, I'd probably end up back down there again, because I'm a big time introvert, you know, because you know, I'm most happy when I'm on my own. So when you're in prison, you're around you know, people constantly, and you're like married to someone, you know. You're eating with them, you're doing your toilet, you're showering, you're negotiating with the TV. That would just suck the life out of me. After a while, my health would deteriorate, and I'd straight back down into isolation, you know. But that's not going to happen, because, like, I always had standards even when I was doing wrong on the outside, and I doubled down on them since I got out. But introverts or extroverts, it doesn't fucking matter, you know, what you are. You spend enough time down in isolation, you're not going to come out the same, you know. maybe eventually. Because when I came out, I couldn't stop pacing. I was in a little room, and I spent months inside there still pacing. My head was still inside the cell, and I was taking benzos like that, drowned it out. And then, once you get over that, you have to post-prison uncertainty. Like, you can't make up your mind a decision on anything, So it was like I'd make a video, and then 5 minutes later I come back and I say, I don't know, do I feel that way? And even in shopping centres, I pick something up, put it back, pick it up, put it back. I don't know the way I want it, so it would take ages. So that's annoying. And then you get to the gym and something cuts out when you're trying to train, so I'm fighting through that as well. And I never had a problem like that when I was training before, because training was just natural to me. I could never give an inspirational speech or anything like that to do with training, because it was just not something you do, I liken it to this analogy. Say if you're living in an apartment that's 3 stories up and your elevator breaks down and you have to spend like 2 weeks getting back into your apartment. Well, it would be like you making a video after that, an inspirational video about what you went through to get into your apartment. Because that's the way I felt about weightlifting and training all my life. I'd hit a hard time or be inconvenienced, I train and then just get over it. That's the way training was for me. And to be honest, and this time I could say that is actually a challenge, which is what makes it like the most important transformation that I'm doing. And anything that I talk about outside of training, it's just not that important to me. Training just takes precedence over, basically.